On this episode, we want to give a shout out to Shelby Bottoms Nature Center and Park. We love this park. When we were deciding to do dad walks, we knew this was the park we wanted to go to. They've got lakes, they've got playgrounds, they've got baseball fields, they've got it all. You've got to check out Shelby Bottoms Nature Center and Park. Welcome to another episode of the Nashville Dads. This week we have on drummer and DJ Jerry Pentecost. We talk about the chaos of having twins, growing up in Nashville, and the new realities of dad life. We hope you enjoy.
But thanks for coming on.
Yeah, of course.
I think Ron was the one that got us.
Yep.
Ron Pope,
Ron
Yeah.
Pope, man.
one of the best bosses I ever had.
Oh, did you tour with him for a bit?
I did. I toured with him for about a year.
Yeah.
I played on one of his records, and yeah, it was just, like some people you meet and you're like, we're gonna be buddies for a while.
Yeah.
Like he was one of those. Like, we have a lot of similar interests.
Cool.
Basketball, kids.
Wait, he likes basketball? He talked to us about baseball like
Yeah,
the whole time
really?
he was
Okay,
here.
so
he
he
didn't say
is-
anything about
Yeah, he was
basketball.
just
I
like
love
Mets,
basketball.
Mets.
Yeah, so he is he's from up north and
Yeah.
he's a diehard Mets fan, but like me and him connect at most talking about basketball.
Okay.
So I'm a Braves fan, so like
Okay.
that's probably why we didn't talk about baseball as much. So, but we both grew up in the Jordan era.
Oh, sweet.
So-
Yeah.
Yes.
So
That's
yeah.
fair.
You big fan of college teams,
Uh,
basketball-wise,
a
or is it
little bit.
NBA?
So at one point, 6'2" was like tall for like a,
Yeah,
a
that's
kid,
right.
and I hit my growth spurt right at the end of my high school career. So I got to the point to where it was either play drums or play basketball, and since I had been cut every year leading up to hitting my growth spurt, I just decided to keep playing drums. But at one point, I did want to go to the University of Kentucky and be a Wildcat.
Oh, no.
That's where I went to school.
Get
and that
coached by
is-
Tubby Smith.
That is where I went to school, and that was my dream as
Yeah.
well, man. How?
I'm
Like-
an Indiana fan. So
Oh,
I can't,
okay.
yeah.
All right. Go Hoosiers. I get it. Yeah.
So, why UK? Just
Man, I think the track record of the players that were coming out of there, A, it was close to home. So, like, that was, that was a starting point. B, Tubby Smith and, like, they were just killing, literally, they were just killing it,
Yeah.
So, and yeah, like, I was really into Tony Delk at the time because
Yes.
I was, like, a point guard size, So yeah, I was watching all these players come out. I used to collect all the basketball cards and all the stuff. So,
That's awesome.
but yeah, you kind of have to start early and like play middle school and play in high school and all that. Like I'm not a freak of nature like 6'10" and
yeah.
I just picked up basketball and somebody found me in a community gym somewhere. It's like I'm a very average size as I found out like later on in life.
yeah, I think
6'2" is pretty common. 6'2", I'm like 6'2" and a half somewhere.
I'm 6'4", and I'm like, I think Tony Parker is the same height as me.
Yeah,
He's a
exactly.
point guard, and he looks like so short compared
Yeah.
to everyone else
I
around
think
him.
Steph Curry is 6'4".
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm like, when I stand up, I'm
Yeah.
not like, you're the same height as most starting point
Yeah.
guards. I'm like, no, I'm not. No.
And like
Yeah,
Shaq
being-
is like 7'4", and then
Yeah.
you see
Yeah.
people next to him, and you're like,
Yeah,
I'm a little baby.
yeah,
pretty much. Were you a Bulls fan in the 90s?
still a Bulls fan.
Oh man, I'm from Indiana, so Pacers fan. So just heartbroken every
Uh-huh.
single year by either
Yeah.
the Knicks or the
Yeah,
Bulls.
that's
So,
right.
Were you a Reggie fan?
Of course. Yeah.
I mean, see, I was a Reggie fan too, but it's like, nothing else compared to
No.
MJ.
No,
Yeah.
the Bulls in the
Yep.
90s there's a reason why there's so many documentaries about the Bulls in the 90s.
Yeah,
Man, that's cool.
it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It really is.
Have
I
you
mean-
spent much time in Chicago?
Over the years, I've come through there quite a bit, and I actually got to go to a game at United Center.
That's cool.
So yeah, that was like a high. So I went to the game that it was Golden State Warriors versus the Bulls, and that was the game that Klay Thompson set the record for the most amount of threes in a quarter.
Yes.
I was sitting like 7 rows behind Scottie
Serious?
Pippen. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
and I'm just watching, and that was the team with Kevin Durant and
Yeah.
Klay
Oh,
Thompson
yeah.
had just come back, and it was a hard game.
Yeah. You witnessed history. Now
I'm
the
sitting
type of
there, I'm
history you
like
wanted.
rooting, and the Bulls were hanging in there, but
Yeah.
it was like, I mean, every time they came down, it was,
Yeah.
that's why they're calling the Splash Brothers. It was,
Uh-huh.
I was like, ugh, sitting on the edge of my seat, but knowing, the outcome. So it's like watching a movie you've already seen before. Yeah.
That one season where they broke the Bulls record for most wins in a regular season.
Didn't win the championship.
Didn't win the championship.
Yeah.
But watching, anytime Steph Curry had the ball, I was like, oh, he's probably going to make a three from here. Yeah. Just no matter where he was on the court.
It's insane, man.
Like, after all of that and, like, kind of watching, the way that I kind of, like, run my life is like, I run it like it's a sport, and, like, and sportsmanship is, like, a big deal to me, like, being decent to other people. And so, like, I used to be a big Russell Westbrook fan. Yeah. And then, like, he started smacking people's phones out of their hand and, and, like, cursing at people in the stands.
That attitude.
And I was just like, man, like, he's, and then it was the same thing with Ja Morant. I was like, okay, Ja Morant's killing it right now. Like, I still like Ja Morant, like, but, like, it got really, really hard for me to be like, like, to constantly endorse this dude as my favorite. And, like, when I'm saying my favorite player, is like, this is just for me, it's not for anybody else. It's just like, this is who, like, who's entertaining me right now in the league, because I mean, the Bulls have Zach LaVine, but like, if we can get into the playoffs, then, then I'll start having more hope. But until then, but really, as in the last, like, 2 years, it's been Steph Curry, because like, he looks like he's having the most fun when he's playing basketball. Yeah. Like, he's engaging with the crowd, and it's like, and he, there's always going to be haters. Tell my wife this all the time. People are hating on you. You should be proud of that. Yeah. So,
Jamal Murray and Devin Booker are my two favorites right now. Kentucky boys.
Yeah, man, I enjoy, and I'm glad to see Jamal come back from that injury, because I was watching in the bubble, and I know that was really, really hard. Like, and when I saw them almost make it to the Western Conference Final, I was like, they made it. They got beat by the Lakers. That's what it was. And Jamal Murray got injured, I think, in that series. It was the Denver series, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was like, they'll be back. Yeah. Like, I had no doubts at all. And I was like, I just hope that he comes back healthy. And he did, and they won it, you know. So
I was actually in Denver for a month in June. Yeah. So I was there whenever they won the NBA Finals. And, like, I was just, like, sitting there. I was, like, casually checking on my phone. Yeah. And, like, I started hearing fireworks go off everywhere in the neighborhood. And I'm like, what just? And then I checked my phone. I was like, like, it's just won it all. So I did not go down for the parade. Yeah. Because I was like, I don't know what this is going to be like at all. I bet it'd be really fun, but I'm good.
The closest to anything like that, and I'm not even a big UT fan, but I went to a game when I was in high school, and it was like the first time they beat the Florida Gators, and and that was the year they had T. Yeah.
Was it T. Martin?
T. Martin and Jamal.
Like 2099 or something like that.
Yeah, I was like a sophomore in high school, and it was like, I mean, for somebody who couldn't drink, like, being out there in the street, seeing everybody else rage, I was like, it was like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. it was the lizard scene. I was like, I was like, if I had a movie, people dragging, like, inflatable, like, gators down the street, and, like, no street lanes anymore. People just driving wherever
just chaos.
Dude, when we beat LSU in Lexington, the year that LSU won the championship, dude, my friends set cars on fire. I mean,
you mean in football, right?
In football, it was.
Which is just to know, especially for Kentucky
football to win. Yes,
no,
but man, people
I tried to keep up with Kentucky football, and it was just like, it became immediately clear, like,
I'm
stick
good.
to basketball. Basically, can't waste my time watching these games.
We keep on saying this year is our year, and I mean, we're better than what we used to be.
Who was the dude from the Bears that came from there when they're I'm trying to think. I think he's on Pittsburgh now. Like second, third string, but he was the dude that for the Bears for, I don't know, like a couple seasons, drafted fairly high. I thought he played for Kentucky. Like I said,
what position?
Quarterback.
Yeah.
I don't really keep up.
I don't know
anymore.
I can't remember. There's so many.
I just remember every year, like, because one of my best friends I grew up with here actually is a Bears fan. Like, he's from Chicago, moving to Nashville, and I'm like, every year I'm like, so that's the guy that's gonna take y'all to the promised land. Yeah. So
yeah. You're actually born and raised in Nashville, right?
I am. So it's like it's kind of I don't know if I ever like, let the story develop more than it should, but so I was born in Baptist Hospital, which is now St. Thomas Midtown. Okay. And actually my daughters were born there too, so that's fun. That was really, really cool. Yeah. But when I was about 8 or 9, we were living off of Charlotte, and our house was in the process of getting broken into, and I'm one of 5, so 2 of my brothers were at home, and like they were able to scare the people off, but my mom was like, we have to make a change because something's going to happen to one of you. So we moved to Hendersonville, and that's where I ended up graduating from. So, but as soon as I graduated, I was, basically borrowing my dad's car and driving downtown and trying to sit in with people on Broadway. And I'd stay out there till like 2 and 3 in the morning on the weekends trying to talk people into letting me play drums at, like 17, 18 years old. And then as soon as I turned, actually I got kicked out. And then I got a room for rent. I think I was one of the first people to get a room for rent in East Nashville. Got a room with some random dudes and found it on Craigslist, and here it was. So, yeah. So that was my story for a while. But I talked to a guy the other night who had some friends that went to Beach High School, and that's where I graduated from.
Sweet.
With honors.
Heck
So
yeah.
in there.
Did you try college at all, or did you just go straight to gigging?
I went to Vol State in Gallatin, so it was like trying to stay relatively close. I had, like offers to go to a lot of places. Miami. I was looking into everything I was looking into. Like I had really started picking up playing music, and so like I had a band that we were playing the Muse and Indianet all the time. For anybody who remembers those places.
Yeah. And
I didn't want to break it up, I was like, I think we got a shot, I was like, I think we're doing good. So I stayed local, and it was, like it came down to, I was like, all right, I'd gone to Trevecca, and I had a full scholarship there, but they wanted me, it was in the music, like my scholarship would have been academic wise, but I wanted to pursue music. And so they were like, oh, well, you got to start taking lessons like now. And I had never taken any lessons. And that just my last summer, like did not seem appealing to be taking lessons like 6 hours every day. Yeah. So yes, I blew that off. And I took the grant money and I bought a drum set and I went to Vol State.
Nice.
So, yeah.
And
there's have it all, kids.
There's no looking back now, right?
No, there's no looking back. I still got that drum set too.
Do you really? That's cool.
Yeah. So it's in a shed somewhere.
Somewhere.
Awesome. Yeah.
Is it confusing to you at all that Nashville's grown the way it has since you've like been here for so long?
It was in the beginning, but for someone like myself who's never left, like it, like clearly, like the night my mom told me, like, hey, we're gonna move to Hendersonville. Probably not going to see a lot of people that look like you. Like I cried, like I bawled my eyes out. I was like, man, I don't want to leave Pookie and Scooter and Skip and all of them, all the kids that I used to hang out with on the corner. Yeah. And it was fine. Like I adapted. Of course, I met my fair share of difficulties, but like sometimes you just got to deal how you got to deal. So, but to me, I've been offered to move to LA. I've been offered to move to New York. I've been offered to move to Chicago, and I just could never pull the trigger because like Nashville just kept it. Now we're at a point to where like it's obviously overpopulated. It's like a baby. I'm overstimulated. It's too much going on. You know, it's like when they start breaking out the Vegas lights, then I'm gonna be like, all right, like can't even drive downtown anymore without having a seizure.
Yeah, pretty much.
But like there for a while, it was like I was making more money as a DJ than I was as a drummer. And the way I was able to do that was because all these bars kept springing up, all these rooftop bars. It was like all these LA developers and early stages of influencers, like trying to make these cool spots for everybody to want to go to and see like the view of the Strip, which our Strip is only like 6 blocks long. Yeah. So, but then it was like, like it just started multiplying. And then I found myself, I was like, I can DJ like 6-7 days a week.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I can do 3 shifts in a day sometimes if I want to. Wow. And it got to that point where I was doing single shift on Thursday, doubles on Fridays, triples on Saturdays and Sundays, and a shift on Monday.
Dang. All at the same bar or different bars?
All different bars. Yeah, all up and down Broadway, Midtown. Like I was kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
So
which ones?
I did Tin Roof in Midtown for a long time. Acme. I helped open Whiskey Row. Old Red. Man, it's been so long. Famous
So-
Saloon. I was like, I don't even know if some of these places are even still here.
You could just say
anymore.
two country
Some-
sounding
yeah,
I was
words
gonna say
together,
some-
and I'd
Yeah.
assume it was a bar.
That's like I was kind of all over the
That's
place.
pretty
I
cool.
did a lot of like there was an era of like 2015 to like 2017 where like Acme was the spot.
Yeah, it was.
before
Yeah.
like they were the spot that was like we had the only rooftop, and
Yeah.
you know, and like others. So like a lot of people came in and saw what they were doing, and so I was one of like 6 or 7 DJs that was up there on a regular basis, like every Friday to every other Friday. And that for me, like that was really what, you know, like kind of took it away. And now it's really hard to find gigs that, you know, like get you in bed by 11.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah.
so now I DJ for the Nashville Preds. That's my only
That's
like
sweet.
main gig. So yeah, I like that a lot.
That's pretty cool, though.
Yeah, it's like every so often we'll end in hitting overtime, but for the most part, it's
Yeah.
like I know I'm in the parking garage by like 10. So
It makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Having kids, you get older and stuff. Like, even without having kids, getting older is like,
Yeah.
I don't really want to stay up until 1. Like, I'm good.
Yeah.
and it, like I try my hardest to like never stay out. And I'm a late dude. Like on average I'm going to bed around 11,
Okay.
11:15,
Gotcha.
11:30. I'm getting
Yeah.
up at 6:30, 7 roughly. Like we've gotten comfortable to where they kind of wake us up, you know?
Uh-huh.
Like it used to be like you had to get up at 6 if I was going to exercise or anything like that, but like breakfast had to be ready at like 6:45 because they were going to come down and they
Yeah.
were going to be starving, and it was going to be like, you know,
It's going to be a battle if you
It
didn't
was
have
gonna be a
breakfast right.
battle.
Yep.
now like they come down and like they're a little more independent, or like yesterday they just sat in their cribs and like revolted against my wife. Was like, nah, we're
It
not
was
coming out.
You're like,
So,
okay, cool.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel like downtown Nashville with rooftop bars. Yeah, I feel like we started having kids in like 2016. So I had
Yeah.
like 2 or 3 years where I didn't really go to Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
And then I feel like I went to a Ryman show in like 2019. I was like, are there like 20 rooftop bars now?
You
Like,
hit that
everywhere.
intersection. So if you're coming out of the Ryman and you hit that intersection
Yeah.
at 4th right there in Broadway, you can
Yeah.
hear music coming from like 45
Yeah.
Pretty
different
much,
places.
yep.
And,
Yeah.
and
And that's
you
just
can
one
hear
bar.
it all coming from like all 4 corners though,
Yeah.
like all at you at once. And yeah, like I've been fortunate enough to play the Ryman a few times, and everybody always wants to go out a little bit afterwards.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right,
Sure.
let's go out. Sure. And you know, and it most times it never takes more than 30 minutes before they're like, oh, this is
I'm
a lot.
good.
You
Yeah.
know? Yeah. Or
It's all
you know,
tourist now.
yeah. And it's like, you know, like for me, because I did the DJ thing for so long, it's like very little bothers me.
Yeah.
So I that's why I think I was a good dad in the making, because like it really, really takes a lot to like get to me. So I
got a
had
lot
my
of
struggles
patience.
with boogers and poop,
Yeah.
whatever word you want to use for that.
Yeah.
But you, as a parent, you obviously you have to overcome it. But
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw on your Instagram you said you change a lot of diapers.
I changed a lot of diapers. Yeah. So, well, we got twins.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so like they were, oh man, like at one point it was like, I think it was the 10 diapers a day per child.
Yeah.
So like 20 diapers
Yeah.
in the beginning,
Wow.
you know? So yeah, it's like, if you're going to change one, you might as well change the other.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So
Did you have any, like, I know some people, whenever they find a diaper, they have to find like a specific diaper brand that works with their kids. Did you have anything like that? Or could you just go out and buy like the bulk and it was fine?
we're a Pampers Swaddler house. So that seems to be what works for them.
works. It's
you
all
know,
good.
I mean, before I go any further, I just got to give the biggest shout out to my wife.
Yes.
Like she really, really researched all these things, and I got to just come in and be the dude that was like, you know, roll the target. We need diapers.
Yeah.
Cool. Like I
Yeah.
know which ones, what size. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. We're still 4s. Okay, good. You know, but like, you know, like I know she went to Target and like looked down the aisles and like read the reviews
Yeah.
and did all the stuff, you know. And it was like, I remember there's another version of Pampers. It's not Swaddlers. And I remember, I think her mom bought them or something, and she was like, yeah, they were just wasn't working, you know, like they
Yep.
were falling off, or like they
Uh-huh.
just like the fit is just like slightly different,
Yeah.
which, you know, like a guy can wear underwear until it literally falls off their
Yep.
body, but like women in underwear, like it's just completely like, so she knows those, you know, she notices those details and
Yeah.
noticed when they were running around or when changing a diaper, if
Yeah.
it was leaking through or anything like that. So So yeah, kudos to her for the research. Because
And-
like I said, man,
That was my wife as well, man.
Yeah.
When she researches something, she's like,
Here's
she's
my PowerPoint,
all,
Justin.
yeah, she really
TED
is.
Talk,
I'm just
here you
like,
go.
TED Talk
Yeah.
just
on
tell me
Tucker.
what I gotta buy, and I'll go buy it.
Send me the
Yeah.
link so whenever I'm in the store,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't, because you just did all this research and it's actually
Yeah.
disrespectful if I buy the wrong one. Like,
yeah, it's like you clearly weren't listening.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
creating a whole nother issue.
pretty
Yeah.
much, yeah.
Yeah.
What was it? Whenever you found out you had twins, what was your reaction? Because you went from 0 to 2. Correct?
0 to 2, and I think we're capping it at 2.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah, that's fair.
That's we're leaving it open.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
wife is still kind of interested. I'm good.
Yeah.
But like I'm a team player. I'm
Yeah.
supportive. But I actually wanted twins because
Really? Okay.
I've always been obsessed with the idea. I thought it was really, really cool, and I've known several twins over like my years of growing up. And there was one period of time where like I was gigging so much that I would tell people that I was a twin. And so I was working the door at
That's
the
awesome.
5 spot, but like I'd go and play like 2 sets before I would have to come in and work, at the 5 spot, and people would come in and be like, "Oh, did I just see you at Mercy Lounge?" And I'm like, "No, that's Jerome. That's my twin brother,
That's
Jerome.
awesome.
Like, I'm the nice one. He's the mean one."
That's fantastic.
And they're like, "Oh, okay, yeah. Well, I guess I've never talked to him, So I was, I like to have fun with stuff like that. But I told my wife we were, I was 30. We both were the same age. So I guess I'll refrain from saying my age because you know how that is too. But like we were both the same age, and I was like, I really don't want to do this again in 2 years. Like this is a lot. It would be really awesome if we had twins, and my wife has twin younger brothers. So
Oh, cool. So it kind of runs in the family.
yeah,
then.
and like everything, it's funny because like people start throwing out, like even my stepdad was like, "Well, we got twins in the family." I was like, "We're not even related," like stepdad.
Yeah.
Which is more like a real dad to me than my real dad. But yeah, it has nothing to do with the dad side of the family. It
There's
has
no
everything to
genealogy
do-
with your stepdad.
Exactly, and that too. So it's not a Tyler Perry movie over here.
No, not so much.
But so I asked her mom right before she got pregnant. I was like, "What did you do? Did you do anything different?" Because she's got an older brother, and then she's the middle child, and then the twin younger brothers. I was like, "What did you do?" And she was like, "Well, my dad was my wife's granddad was selling a supplement at the time," and she was like, "So." I took that. It was supposed to be like a multivitamin kind of thing, I guess. She was like, that was really it. Like, there might be a case or two, like, down in the basement somewhere. And I was like, this seems like Seinfeld, like,
like
whatever
Curb Your
his
Enthusiasm.
wife was that passed away from licking the stamps.
Susan.
So it was
Yeah.
Susan. That's it. I was like, this seems like that kind of territory.
Yeah.
And I don't want to go that route. So it just organically happened, though. I was like, I feel like I put it into the universe, and our doctor was like really, really smooth with it. We were looking at the screen. And I feel very fortunate because, like, for pandemic babies, I don't know for anybody else. You said you have it too.
Yeah. Justin is also.
Okay,
Or like
cool.
basically too.
I got
Yeah.
to go because I was a musician and I was out of work most of the time. I got to go to every single appointment. I got to go to every ultrasound, even like when being, like, and when you have twins, it's like high risk. So, so it hit a point to where we had to go every week.
Yeah.
And so I got to go to every single one, and the ones that I didn't physically get to go inside, like I would just be on speakerphone in the parking lot outside. So because at one point, like they weren't letting any dudes in,
Nope.
I guess.
It's just the woman going back by themselves. And
So I'd walk her up there and I'd be like, "Call me when you get in the room."
yeah.
But so we're both looking at the screen and, like lubing up the gel and stuff like that. She puts it on the stomach and she's moving around. And as she's moving, I was like, just saw some up there in the top corner. What was that? But she keeps going. And she's like, "All right, so we got a healthy baby right here, healthy baby." And then she zooms back to that thing, and she's like, "And another one right there, y'all are having twins." And I was like
That
it was
is
like
awesome.
no joke, like single tear rolled down my face. I look at my wife, and she's just like about to lose it because, she's like, how am I supposed to carry two babies, And my wife's fairly small. So, and I was like, it's going to be great. It's going to be great.
It'll be
It's
good.
going to
We
be
got
two, like, it's awesome. Like, and I was like, could have been triplets,
That's
like,
true.
so, which I'm sure for people who had triplets, that's not funny, but
Probably not. But we don't know if any of them listen to the show.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
We'll find out later.
Yeah, we've never had a dad on that
We'll,
has triplets.
we'll get that demographic study going soon.
Yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, so it was a really beautiful thing. We had already talked about girl names when we were dating, so like we kind of had. But therein lies the challenge. It was like we didn't know if they were girls. We didn't know if they were girls or boys. We didn't know if it was both. So we decided if it was twins, we wanted to know the gender. If it wasn't, we were just gonna wait and be surprised.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So yeah. So we found out, I think around week 20, whenever you can find out
week 20 usually,
that it was two girls.
That's awesome.
And I wanted a girl and a boy, but also like all my friends were like, "Come on, man, keep trying for a boy. It's pretty cool." And I'm like, I don't care that much.
Yeah.
So, like everybody, I just wanted happy, healthy babies.
Pretty much.
We got
Yes.
that, and like
You're
there's
good.
no complaints. I was like,
Yep.
I'm just waiting for my time to shine when they're daddy's girls, but for right now, they're all about their mom.
Yep.
So.
We, my two oldest are 23 months apart. So I've done two under two in both diapers, technically for like 2 weeks, but that's still nothing compared to twins.
Yeah, man,
It's still a
that's
different
gotta
world.
be.
Yeah. It's tough, but it's also like some days I'm just like sitting there watching them, and they have their own language, they have their own way of communicating, with each other. Right now, we're in that real like learning to share, attempting the potty train, which I think is like the hardest. But honestly, I'll take this time right now. No, I'm not gonna say that. I'll take them up to 6 months over any other time.
Yeah.
Up to
Because
6
before they could move, like I don't care about the sleep, man. Like I thrived off of no sleep when I was in my 20s. Like I never got more than 4 hours of sleep.
Sure. Yeah.
But when the first time they rolled over, I was like, you can never leave the room again. Like there it goes. She's gonna roll off the bed.
Pretty much.
Both of them are gonna roll off the bed. Like it was, but before that, it was like we'd sit them up in a boppy.
Yeah, man.
We could each take a shower. I was just thinking on the way here, I was like, what pointers would I give to anyone? And I was like, ooh, if you're getting more than 2 showers a week, you're killing it as a parent. I was like, that's pretty much that is success. Like, and your children are eating and like everything's good, like, and the house isn't falling apart. But yeah, it's like, there's a lot of times where I'm like, I could shower. I was like, but, like dinner starts in like 5 minutes, like my wife's been working all day.
Yeah.
Sometimes she has to work a little extra so that way I can, practice or, like whatever. So, and with the already, I'm sure Ron probably touched on this, with the already guilt of like me having a job that requires me to travel so much. It's like, I'm like, all right, like, I come home and I bend over backwards and try to kill myself trying to make sure that everything else is covered. So that way I can allow her some breaks whenever it's possible, sleep in, like whatever. Because it's like when I'm gone, it's like I'm still dad, but but I'm not. Like at this point, like they're not calling me and needing anything. Like sometimes they don't even want to see me on FaceTime because their emotions are just so complex. It's like, man, this stuff is it's like a master's studies in psychology. It's just such a weird thing.
Well, it's ever changing.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. As soon as you're like, oh man, we got it figured out right here. Like this is the thing right here. Then they start doing something different.
Constant humility.
Stop napping.
Yeah.
Like they start fighting. Something. So
we just did a month of our almost 2-year-old. Just did a month of like, he'd do 3-hour naps and then not go to bed until about 10 p.m.
Oh yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, well, I'm gonna wake him up at 2 hours. Nope, didn't change anything. So cool.
Yeah.
That just means he's hanging out with us until 10 p.m. then, or he's gonna scream in his crib for 2 hours.
And that's what I was gonna say. You try. We had a similar situation where they kind of stopped napping for like a week.
Yeah.
And I told my wife, I was like, this is stupid. Like we were both holding them in the nursery, and they're both just like screaming, like fighting, like Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Like every time you try to put them down, they're like all fours, like no, not going in the crib.
Yep.
And I'm just like, this is stupid. Like they don't want to nap. Like why should we force
They're
them to nap?
communicating to us no.
Yeah.
So so we decided like, all right, like if they're not gonna nap, then I guess they're not gonna nap.
Let's go to the zoo.
But, yeah.
Let's chill. Let's hang out
So-
or something.
Yeah, Ada went through for probably about 3 weeks or so, constantly waking up in like multiple times throughout the night.
Yeah.
And then like at 5 o'clock, 5:30, she would wake up and be alert
And
and
just
Ready to
yeah.
go.
I mean, and that was the time that I would wake up and have to go to work.
Yeah.
And Haley is a night owl
Yeah.
and does not like to wake up early. So she was just so miserable and
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
this is never going to end. I was
Yeah.
like,
No,
just
it's
give
like,
it a
Give it
couple
2
of
weeks.
weeks. Yeah.
Give it 2 weeks.
I was gonna say is it's a lot of these are like transitions. Like
Yeah.
they're it feels like forever, but they're mostly
Yep.
temporary. And like for the nap thing, I think for anybody, whether you're at a daycare or whether you've got in-home care or whether you're a solo parent and you're doing all the work, it's like that's the long-waited, well-deserved break
Yeah.
that you've been waiting
Yep.
on the entire day. Like
Pretty
from
much.
the moment you got up, you're like, like I need this.
Yeah.
And you're basically like pleading with the child, and the child's just like, I don't care.
Pretty
Nope.
much.
Nah. So
Yeah. It's real fun. Do you do you have much anxiety about like child safety and stuff? Because I also have the same. Like once the kid starts being able to roll, you lay them on the bed and you like position pillows all around them, and
Yeah.
you're like, all right, you're not gonna. I just have to go pee. It takes
Yeah.
30 seconds. Like
that's kind of how, like, I mean, I don't know about you guys' house, but we have a significant amount of throw pillows.
Oh, yeah,
and
without
so it
question.
was, yeah.
I'm
So-
married, of course.
Yeah,
I do.
I was gonna say, yeah. If you're married, you got at least 20.
At least somewhere.
And so like we line the bed up and
Yeah,
put
man.
them next to each other, and like I was like, all right, so like one of them is a bumper because they're so close to each other, and then and then you've got this fortress of pillows around. But yeah, like I mean, I would be lying if I'm like, I can't go to take them to a playground and just sit back on a bench and be like, all right, y'all have fun.
I'll be
Yeah.
here.
And
Yeah.
just be in the background. I'm doing laps around. I'm making sure that they're not jumping off of anything too high or what. And my stepdad is like the complete opposite. He's like, they got to learn to hurt themselves. And I'm like,
Yeah.
there is a balance because, like they still don't know what they're doing. So like if
Pretty much.
they jump off something, like they still, even though they'll get hurt, they still might not even know that
Yeah.
what they did was what got them hurt,
Yep.
like because their brain's not connecting all
Yeah.
that. For instance, excuse me. My wife went to yoga one time and my stepdad had just come in and I was like, hey, I'm cooking lunch for everybody over here. Can you just keep an eye on him? And he's on his phone. One of my daughters climbs up on, we've got 2 bar stools at our island. She climbs up on one of the bar stools and falls backwards and the bar stool lands on her. And I was like, A, that was the first time I ever cursed out loud
Yeah.
in front of my stepdad, and B, at him. I was like,
Yeah.
it was like, like it was just such an
the
intense moment. Yeah. It was worse than that, but, but
giving you some
and I
grace.
was like, appreciate that. But she still climbs up on that bar stool.
Yeah, man.
Like,
Yeah.
like her brain didn't
No
connect.
idea.
Like, oh, like I climbed up, and I have to remind her. I'm like, remember that time you climbed up on this and like
Yeah.
you fell backwards? Like
Yeah.
that's why we don't climb up. It's not safe.
Yep.
Yeah.
And like I'll turn around and she'll be like, and when she climbs up on it, her head's just enough for her eyes to peek over the island. And I'm like, so when I see her eyes, I know she's on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, yeah, like you just don't get it.
How old are your girls? Like 2.5?
They're almost 2.5.
2.5, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
So-
I'm the same where my wife is more that way. Like, oh, look at her. They'll know it for next time. I'm like, yeah, if they understand cause and effect. And so they don't know that.
Yeah.
I'm the same where like, as your kids get older, yeah, you have more confidence in them to
Yeah.
not jump off of a slide or something like that. Yeah, Josh, our youngest, if he's on a playground, I'm pretty much hovering the entire
Yeah.
time because I'm like,
Yeah.
no, if you fall 5 feet,
Yeah.
I don't know how
Like
close
that's, it
I'm
doesn't matter
good.
how much padding it's,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, like, yeah, it's detrimental. So.
Before Ada was born, I thought of myself as, oh yeah, I'll be that guy that's laid back and everything like
man.
that. But now that she's born and that she's doing stuff, I am totally that
On edge,
anxious.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Especially in our living room with that fireplace that we have.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Dude, that's
Yeah, you got a
Yeah,
sharp
man,
stone
we-
edge on
wrap
that.
at
Yeah.
it.
We had to get it. we had to get rid of everything in the living room. It's
Yeah.
like
Really?
it's Chuck E. Cheese in there now. Like it's like there's no coffee table, no side tables. Like like no edges. You know, like
no
because they were
corners.
just clearing every table.
Yeah.
You know, like they were trying to climb on them or turn them upside down. It was like, and my wife, when we moved her from Brooklyn, it was like she had all this like cute furniture and like plants and all this other stuff. And it was just like one by one. I think it was harder for her to like part with those than anything else because I was like, like we're barely remembering to water these plants anymore anyway. Like B, you know, like they're just like they're attempting to eat the soil all the time. Like, we just gotta get rid of this stuff and you know, and it's like everybody goes through that. Like my house isn't gonna look like a zoo thing.
Yeah, but it does.
And
But
it's
it
like
does.
they've got stuff in every room, and it's like we just delegate it to one position, you know, and so that way at least we can clean up a little bit. But like I mean they, you know, I mean they might as well be the landlords of the house and make all the decisions.
We have the constant conundrum of we don't have a garage with our house, and so anytime we're like, oh, we need to buy a car, we only have one car, and we're like, okay, should we buy a second car or not? And we're like, okay, so we have to buy something we want something that's newish. We don't want something that's breaking down, but the inside of it will get disgusting no matter what we do because
it'll
we
be
will have
destroyed.
3 children in there. So I want something that's within the past 2 years, but isn't too nice, but nice enough, but not too nice, but also I'm okay with it being destroyed immediately. Where's the market for that? What's the...
This sounds like the exact same conversation that I had when we bought a Honda Pilot.
Sure.
It was like used. It was a few years, and so we bought it in 2020, right before the kids were born, because I had a Honda Fit, and I couldn't sit in that seat and drive with 2 car seats.
Oh yeah.
So even though the Fit could fit a lot, couldn't fit me
Car seats
into
are huge.
2 car seats. Car seats are
Dude,
huge. They've definitely grown.
Yes.
I think safety has played a large part in that. But
Yeah.
they're definitely a lot bigger than from what I remember. And yeah, so we bought this car, and you know, like my wife was like, "We should get leather seats," and I'm like, "I'm with you, but not for the same reasons."
Yeah.
I was like, "I think the leather seats are nice, but I also think the leather seats will be easier to clean than the cloth
Yes.
seats,"
Yeah.
and that's probably. And she was like, "Well, yeah, that's what I was thinking about." I was like, "Okay, cool. Like, just making sure we're on the same
It's
page
feng
here
shui and
because
functionality.
exactly, yeah, because I mean those every crevice, dude.
Yeah, man, it gets
Uh-huh.
I
everywhere.
mean, crushed up Oreo or not Oreos,
Goldfish
Honey
and
Nut
pe-
Cheerios and like
Goldfish
just
peanut butter
Goldfish
crackers.
peanut butter crackers.
I didn't know peanut butter crackers could be so messy until watching my children
Oh my
eat them.
goodness. Man, it's like it's disgusting sometimes.
So have you heard of the Sammy Jammies before?
No.
Oh, is it
Okay.
like? No, I haven't.
It's like a little pastry that has a little bit of jelly in it. I don't think it has any peanut butter, but it's just like a square.
Yeah.
And we do a dad walk every Saturday at Shelby Bottoms.
Oh, nice.
I gave her that, and she put it in the cup holder, and I guess I forgot about it. And it was either yesterday or the day before.
Developed into its
I
own planet.
well, so I pick her up from daycare and I put her in there. I didn't even see it. Well, I open up the door to get her out when we're back home, and she has the Sammy Jammy,
no!
Oh,
and she has a bite in her mouth, and she's just chilling with
Just
a.
happy as can
Oh
be.
yeah, I'm like, where the
Yeah.
hell did you get
Where did
that,
come
from?
She's like, "This is a win, Dad.
is
I don't know if you're talking about. You didn't have
I
to
just-
pay for this. Like it's
Yeah.
recycle, reuse.
This
like,
is called
everything's
planning,
good.
Father.
I just laughed though. I was like, this is
man.
hilarious.
Yeah.
It's disgusting but hilarious.
Yeah.
But welcome to parenthood.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Luckily, they're making a lot of these new snacks with like either enough preservatives or very little. So like it either goes bad really quickly,
Yeah.
Yeah.
or like it lasts forever.
Yeah.
So you know, like a Big Mac, you leave
Yeah.
Big Mac out for
Pretty much.
it seems like a year.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
But it's the same with furniture also. You go like, oh, let's get a new couch because now we have more members of our family. We need a bigger couch. And you start looking at it and you're like, this couch is going to get destroyed. We used to have a dog. So you'd be like, okay, so our dog's going to lay on this. We're going to have 3 kids on this.
Yeah.
This couch is going to be disgusting.
For all
Tons
you
and tons of
dads,
spiels. Yeah.
do not get a white couch.
Yeah.
I was an
do
idiot.
you have a white couch?
Yes, and my wife reminds me every day about because that I wanted the white couch. She
Yeah.
wanted a colored couch. It might as well as be a rainbow couch now.
Yeah. No, there's no like. I mean, if if I could count on I can't count on both hands how many times I had to say wash your hands today to the two of them. And it's like they just immediately, like they finish eating, they get down and they go and start touching stuff. And I'm like, that's the couch.
Yep.
Like that's because they have their snack upstairs and like that's where like the family couch is. And then we have like a downstairs. Yeah. And there's a, like a living room couch there. Yeah. And it's like, like both of them. It's just like, it's like you just got to go through with a wet wipes surprisingly get out a decent amount of stuff. Like I'm like intrigued with what all's in wet wipes and like how it's okay to wipe their faces with this, but it's like I can also get like Kool-Aid out of a white shoestring. So sometimes get like a little bit of barbecue sauce out of a white t-shirt.
Like that's not possible.
I'm like, So anyway,
I think at one point in time we tried to be like, our upstairs is going to be the kids zone, and the downstairs will be more like not only kids. No, it's just wishful thinking. I don't know what I'm trying to prove here.
It's zones is what I figured out. So like because kids constantly need a change of scenery. So I was like, all right, well, like, and my wife was, we did Montessori for a little bit because both of us had to go back to work. Like my band started, or the band I used to be in started touring. Like immediately in 2021, like when all the clubs opened back up, it was like that summer. It was like, like we were gone every weekend, sometimes multiple weeks at a time. And her work only gave her, I think it was 2 months maternity leave.
Sure.
So she took a whole nother month unpaid.
Yep.
And so like we found a Montessori that took them in at 12 weeks. And it was, like it was looking at their flow and everything. We got some, like some inspiration for the house. And we both just kind of came to the understanding that it was like, they're just going to need zones. Like when they're upstairs and we can't go outside because it's too cold or it's raining or they're not old enough to go outside just yet, then they're going to come downstairs. And that's where they'll play for a little bit. And then when we're done upstairs or downstairs, we'll go back upstairs, or we'll go to the nursery, like whatever. So, zones.
Yeah.
That was
or different
the easy answer to accept the fact that like your house is going to have toys in every room.
No, but there's the reality of like, I feel like especially when the kid's like less than one, they're just screaming for some reason. Yeah, cool. I'm just going to go step outside. Everything's better.
Yeah.
Like, cool. All they did was change rooms.
We spent a lot of time on the porch because it was like sometimes if we couldn't get them to nap, like the air would like chill them out or just hearing the cars pass by. And just we still go outside and they'll like, they're at the point now where they're like yelling out colors and,
that's really
that's a truck. So they get really excited about that stuff. So
I feel like that's like new dad advice. I'd tell someone like if everything sucks in a room, just go to a different room for a while.
Dude, it helps a ton. That was one of the best advice that you would ever give me.
Oh, really cool.
Go into a different threshold.
Just see what happens.
See what happens because I mean, you would walk around that room with that screaming child, and then as soon as you'd walk into a different room, they'd be like,
their attention completely goes somewhere else. And it's like you don't even have to explain anything. Like all of a sudden they're like, like, oh yeah, this room.
Especially going from inside to outside. That seemed to be the best for Ada because man, for the first 6 months she was just screaming constantly.
Yep.
We try to get them to focus on. It's like we got this neighbor who lets his dog out. Pulls his trash cans up. He's got a big truck. He's got a boat. All this.
Yeah.
What's Chase doing over there? Like that's what. And they're like, ooh. And then they'll be playing with their toys. And like if he comes outside, they're like, Chase. And I'm like, So.
Does
he
know?
And that started early on. Oh, they'll never say his name like with him there.
Okay.
Because they're just like really, really shy and timid. But like when they're at home and it's just us, they're social butterflies.
That's
you would think that they're in the midst of a marathon of talking until somebody comes and then they're like, man, your kids are like really, really quiet. Like, stay as long as you want.
Basically. What was it? When did you start going back on tour?
So that was that would have been May of 2021. Yeah. But I've been a tour musician since I was 17.
Sweet.
So
did you have much to adapt to with now being a dad and being a touring musician?
Well, the schedules are tough for me because like the average day of music, like lunch is the same, dinner's around the same time, but then you're working from, like 8 until like 10 or somewhere in that window, 9 to 11, like whatnot. So then like you're real. And like for me, so lunch would be breakfast like most days. And then, and then dinner would be lunch. And then after the show around midnight, 1, depends if you get a shower, like whatever, that's dinner. So having to adjust and go to bed at like 1 or eat at 1, go to bed at like 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Like that's a huge transition from, like typical, like being at home responsible dad stuff. But like you kind of fall into it pretty quickly. The hardest part is like sometimes the bus gets home at 4 or 5 in the morning. And, it's like, so you don't get that extra hour, 2 hours sleep that you would normally get. And then you're just up and you're wiped and you've been working all weekend. Yeah. And I always tell people, I'm like, I work harder at home than I ever work on the stage. And I work pretty hard on stage, but, it's just a different requirement of, like I have people on stage depending on me to make smart musical decisions versus I have people at home depending on me to like keep them alive.
Life.
So it's just a different level of responsibility. And I remember Ron telling me at one point, he was like, some days I come into a room and Frankie like gets on a table and it's like, catch me, daddy, like without a second notice. He could have his arms full with stuff and have to drop everything and make sure that she doesn't hit the ground. And I was like, that's the level where we're entering now, where they just fall out for no reason.
With the biggest grin on their face ever.
Just knowing that you'll keep them safe because like you always have.
Yeah.
So, man, I enjoy I feel very fortunate to be able to get to do what I do. But it's hard. It's, it's a balance because the hardest thing overall is missing my family, so, and especially sometimes you're gone for multiple weeks at a time and, it adds up. So, but the transition is not that much because like in most bands, there's a child too, in the band and you have to do a little bit of babysitting there. Gotcha. So that's okay. I've always kind of been the more responsible, like I'm good, you don't have to worry about me. There's always somebody in the band you have to worry about. It's like, is that person going to make it to bus call?
Yeah.
Like,
you're like, I'm going to show up on time. I'm going to have my gear with me. I'll be good.
Yeah.
Did you just tour? Were you in Japan for a little bit?
I was in Japan for a little bit.
Was that trippy with your daughters, like being like all that time difference and everything?
So I was telling my wife I liked it better in Japan because I was just in Europe for 6 weeks straight.
Yeah.
And Japan was cool because when I was getting up, they were getting ready to go to bed.
Oh, okay.
So, like, and to me, like, that was the best time to, like, FaceTime them and whatnot. Like, they've already eaten dinner, like, we're trying to, like, chill them out. So it's, like, something that they can kind of focus on. We're still not really doing screens or anything like that. So seeing me on the phone is a little interesting for them. And, like, sometimes they would, like, knock the phone over to see if I was behind it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it was, like, a lot of that little stuff. But yeah. And then when I would be going to sleep, they would be getting up for the day. So it was like completely like flip flop. But like that, there was consistent time for me to be able to talk with my wife versus like when we were in Europe, it was, like they would be getting up and I would be in the middle of sound check or something like that. Like I just didn't have as much time and then I'd have to play and then, we get on the bus and I basically like get ready to pass out in my bunk and she's like, well, I'm, it's like 10:30. I want to talk.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
I'm good.
So.
Yeah, if it's like 5 p.m., I just put dinner on the table and the kids are starting to eat. And if someone's like, hey, let's FaceTime the kids, I'm like, no.
No. Like,
no, this is not. This really, you have really good intentions, but this is not going to turn out well.
I really didn't want to be like any kind of like aggro guy.
Yeah.
But like if somebody, so yesterday, somebody rung the doorbell while we were doing bedtime. And the girls, like, all the distraction went to, like, who is it?
Yeah.
What's going on? And my wife was like, I wonder who it is. And so then they were like, who is it? So, like, when we tried to get them to go in the cribs, they, like, lost it. Because they were like, we want to know, like, who is it? Who rung the doorbell? They're the only ones that ever ring the doorbell when they're playing on the port. And it ended up being, like, UPS. which 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10, they just slide the package up there and like go on about their business. They don't ring the doorbells anymore. If it's FedEx or, whatever, they'll take a picture of it, slide it up. But like most of the time, they don't even get on the porch anymore. They're just like, whoosh, there it is. See you later. So I was like so annoyed by that. But yeah, like people call this, the HVAC company that I use, one time they showed up right at 5 at dinner, and I was like, it was a 12 to 4. So 12 to 4, that's a long appointment block, right?
Yeah.
No call that they're going to be late. So I'm just like, all right, well, it's just not happening today. That's fine. And literally, like, we sit down and, like, get the knock on the door. And I'm like, all right, well, like, they're here. We clearly don't want to reschedule it, but they don't eat. They're super cranky.
Yeah.
They don't snack. Like, so then, you're putting them down. It's, like, awful. And I'm just, like, mean mugging the HVAC person the whole time because I'm just like, man, you just effed up my whole night. Like, whole night. Like, and I think me and my wife had to trade off hanging out in the nursery because they were just like worked up and like upset. And I was like, man, like it. So I grew up in a family, like a really loose family. My mom, before she met my stepdad, she was married to my dad for a few years, but the majority of the years that I remember being with her, she was a single mom raising 4 boys. And when I try to explain to some of and she passed away when I was 13. When I try to explain to some of my other family members, I'm like, yeah, like we do bedtime starts at 6:30 or 6:45. If they get in the bath, bedtime 6:30. If they're not getting in the bath, 6:45.
Yeah.
My aunt's like, cool, I'll be there at 7:15. I'm like, now they're gonna be in bed by 7.
Yeah.
Like that's just the way it works. Okay, well, maybe y'all will still be up. And I'm like, no, they won't be up. And like,
it's not a good thing if we still are.
Sometimes she'll show up at 7, and I'm just like, they're not up. Like, they're, and
anything that messes up this little cog that we have.
It's like, because like, no one ever had any like structure like that. And that's and I don't have any cousins or anything like that had twins. Like, I was told that my granddad had some twin sisters, but like I don't have any twins that I actually, I do have some cousins on his side, but I didn't grow up with them. Like I didn't meet them until we were much older. So like trying to explain that it's like there's 2 of them, like every book says like try to keep them on the same schedule because otherwise you'll go crazy trying to do everything off of demand, and that's just not good for anybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, like they. My stepdad lives in Florida, so he's an hour ahead, and he'll call all the time at 6:45. And and he does. He's got an Android, so it's like Google Duo or Google Meet or whatever. So that ring is a little and then FaceTime has its own thing, So like when they hear those, they associate that like Papa John, and I'm like, yeah. So it's like, if you're in the middle, I don't even bring my phone in the room anymore. When we're doing bedtime, it's like I make sure that the sound machine and everything is on before I get up there because otherwise it's like, and like heaven forbid it's, somebody calling me about a gig or something like that. And I don't want to get on the phone and be like, this is not a good time. Like, but thank you for hiring me. Good night. So
thank you for the employment. Can you call back in 20 minutes?
Yeah, right. So, yeah, man, it's tricky, but the schedule is like key. And once again, got to applaud my wife because we've both had equal input on the schedule as it comes, but she was the one that was like, this is the order of the night. This is what's going to flow the best. And she's done it by herself many times. And, she's done it with help many, many times. I've done it many, many times. It's like, it's the schedule that they know. They know it like diapers, like it's something that they can count on. They know they're going to come in, brush their teeth, get their clothes changed, and, get in their jammies and get a book read and go straight in their crib. Yeah. So, like, that's just the flow. Yeah. So,
do you guys alternate or anything like that?
Man, they don't care about me. They come in there and they're like, we want mommy. And then, like, my wife will be like, maybe daddy can read this book, and one of them snatch it out of her and be like, no, mommy, and like hand it back to her. And I'm like, that's cool.
That's cool.
I'm just over here in the cut, ready to change a diaper, put somebody in a crib, like whatever you
tag me in, coach.
No, you didn't need me? Okay, cool. All right, I'll just be over here. Like,
they're just very distinctly not making eye contact with you for like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
She's not at that point yet. But yeah, we alternate every other day if we can. Yeah. And it seems to work.
I'm sure it helps out a lot, and like like I take it obviously when it comes in. Like
Yeah.
if one of them's like when I came home, the first week was awful because A, I'd never been away from them that long, and B, like they just don't understand it. But then we got back on a schedule, but like there for a while, there was a little bit of time where like they really wanted me to be involved, and I was like, oh, this is fun. I knew it wasn't gonna last. Like in my head, I'm like preparing myself for the separation. I'm like, because I know it's gonna happen where they're just gonna be like, okay, we want mommy now, but it was really beautiful for like 2 days, like minus the copious amounts of meltdowns because like they were just falling apart over every little thing, but. Yeah, like that, like daddy hair, like for me to do one of them's hair, and I'm like, cool, like we have, put all the products in them, put the lotion on them and all the stuff, and then put them in their jammies. But yeah, man, it was like they had never, like reached out like that before. But like when I came home right before I changed gigs, I was in Europe for a week. And when I came home, like one of my daughters, we had to give him a bath, and she was like kicking me away. She was like, "No." And that at that point, that was the longest I'd ever been away from them was a week. So then I went from that to Japan, which was 3 weeks, to Europe, which was 6 weeks. Oh wow! So, like, yeah, it was a lot. Like at least it wasn't. There was like a month between Europe and Japan. It was about 2.5 weeks between Europe and Japan. So Europe to Japan to back to Europe. Yeah. So yeah.
And you were touring with the same.
No, I was playing with Old Crow Medicine Show, which I was a member of for 3 years, I think. And then I left in April and joined Bob Dylan's band.
Heck yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was kind of came out of nowhere.
That's sweet. No, I mean, I feel like if Bob Dylan came in, do you want to do anything? I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. I'll figure out. You're Bob Dylan.
I mean, that's how I was like, am I gonna go on tour selling socks? Like, what do you need, man? What do you need?
Yeah, I mean, Old Crow is cool, but like
Bob Dylan.
Bob Dylan's an icon.
Yeah, it was an interesting, choice in a place at that point in my life, and yeah, I couldn't come up with any sound reason to say no. Everybody in Old Crow, like, it's still cool. Everybody's good. There was no hard feelings. I mean, I think we all were like, I think we all would have joined that band. All of us. So yeah, no, I feel very fortunate. You never know who's watching.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's so it's obviously so there's a lot of differences, like based on coming from, like Old Crow, where I was like a member of a band, and like singing and doing all these other stuff to play. And, and I tell people all the time, man, all I ever wanted to do was play drums. I only started DJing because it was another outlet of income, so it was another avenue to be able to make money in this, like this city that's kind of become like a, like a money pit is what it feels like now, because you can't really find anything super affordable anywhere.
Yes. I
was telling somebody I live in a room off of 11th and Shelby, like prime location.
Oh, yeah.
And I paid $175 a month. And that was utilities. That was everything. I lived there for 4 years, and I worked at the 5 Spot. I walked or rode a bike to work most days. Like, I soaked that up for as long as I could, and and I took the money that I saved and went and bought a house because I was able to do that. And and immediately when I left, it was like rent skyrocketed. That was the start of that was like 2014, 2015, where it was like, all right, like everybody's moving north now. So like people started moving from downtown to East Nashville to Inglewood to Madison. So it's like, so I live in Madison now, which that's why I was late.
That works.
A little further out than I thought, but yeah.
I lived in Cleveland Park in like 2011, 2012.
Yeah.
And I think I lived on like Meridian, and for the 3 of us to live in one house, it was $750 for all 3 of us to be there.
Yeah.
So I think with the utilities, I paid $300 a month or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that was 2011, 2012.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, oh, dude, Cleveland Park now with like Audrey's and folk and everything. Like,
even at that point in 2014, like, because that's where we were looking, that was the affordable area. And I was like, no, you can't find anything over here. And if it hit the market, it was gone before it's even like,
and like 30,000 over asking, like in cash. Yeah.
So that's how I got my first house. Is I literally, my agent was like, they want everybody's best offer today.
Yeah.
And she was like, my suggestion is not to lowball. My suggestion is to come in about 25 over asking. And we got it.
Yeah.
You know, but I was like, I mean, the house was a real piece of crap.
Yeah.
So, and I spent months renovating it and making it like decent, livable. But I remember just being like, this is what we paid for.
Yeah.
Because
Right?
I was on tour, and my ex-girlfriend at the time, like her and my real estate agent went to see it, and they were like, we think it's a great idea. And I was like, and I came home from tour, like super sleep deprived. I've been driving all night. This was before the tour buses and all the other cool stuff. Yeah. And I was like, I walked in, and it's like, have y'all seen the thing from Joe Pesci from Casino that's been floating around? Like, what the F is this?
Yes.
You know, like, that's how it was when I walked in. I was like,
Yeah.
what did you guys do with my money?
Basically,
I felt like I was in some kind of bad like action movie.
So
But,
this is the joke house,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
This was the house you rented out for
Yeah.
the afternoon to
yeah,
play a prank
right?
on me.
Yeah. So,
So I mean, I have a similar, not with the Joe Pesci, but with the Tom Hanks, the Money Pit movie with our
which
house.
is a pretty good movie. By
It
the
is
way, but,
I love that movie, and I love when that bathtub falls through that floor.
Yeah.
And he just has that laugh. But that's how I feel. I live in a 1940, I think it was 1945.
Yeah.
Somebody tried to renovate, and they did a decent job, but did like 75%, and then the rest was crap.
Yeah.
So I have been doing nonstop renovations to that house and
Yeah.
trying to fix stuff up,
You
but
have.
it's laughable sometimes.
Every house I feel like I've lived in since that house has been from the 50s, and it's just like, it's never like, it's a full-time job. It can be a full-time
Yeah.
job. Like anything like sometimes I would just walk around a house and I'd be like, I have to stop looking. Like, I just need to walk into a room and not look at some crown molding,
Basically.
like not look at a floor or baseboard or anything like that. Just leave it alone.
Yeah.
Just live in it. So because you'll drive yourself crazy, and I've been there. Where
Yeah.
you're at, so I know.
Yeah, part of it was there's water coming through the fireplace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Part of it, there's water coming through the windows, and
Well, the upside is after a while you have a guy that can do everything.
Basically,
So
yeah.
like when all my friends were moving, they're like, "Do you have a chimney guy?" I'm like, "I do have
yeah,
a chimney
yeah.
guy." Do you got a gutter guy? And I'm like, "I do.
I
I
have
do.
two.
I have. I got all the guys.
I
all
think
the ladies. I got all the companies. I got a nice Nashville Rolodex of hardworking people.
I think it stinks because you're not even trying to do something nice for your house. You're literally just like, can my
just upkeep.
fireplace
Yeah.
not leak into my living
Yeah.
room? That's
Can-
all
Yeah.
I'm looking for here.
Can you just function as normal?
I'm not
you
like
know,
getting a
and
new
not
island or new
bankrupt
kitchen.
me? Yeah.
I'm literally just like, can
Yeah.
my stove not potentially catch the entire house on fire when I
Yeah.
turn it on? That's all I'm looking for.
That's all I'm looking for. Yeah. No, the house that we live in now, it was like I was starting like the early stages. So like I go over and do like all the, like the easy work, I pulled up all the carpet, like pulled out all the nails, and I tore out some drywall. And then like I got to some of like the electrical stuff, and I'm like, all right, so like I see nobody has a house phone anymore, really. I see all the old phone cables and stuff like that. So I'm like pulling all that stuff, and I'm like, and I see all these. It's almost like a bomb, It's like I see all these
all the
wires, and
antenna,
I'm
yeah.
like, what are all these multicolored wires? And
Yeah.
there was this like super super old like home alarm system, like in one of the closets, and I'm just like, should I cut any of these wires?
Yeah,
There's a
yeah,
blue
yeah.
wire, there's a red wire, there's a green wire. Like, what's gonna happen
Suddenly
if
got
I
an
pull
earpiece,
the-
someone
yeah.
telling you which one to cut.
Yeah, and I'm just like, what is happening? Yeah, so I just waited for the electrician, even though I was like, I really wanted. I was like, none of this stuff has worked in like years. The house had been vacant for 5 years, so I was like, there's no way that any of this stuff. They like, check this out. They listed this house in Madison in like 2015 or something like that for like $400,000.
Okay.
And I was like, in 2015, like, now I don't know if y'all are familiar with Madison, but like, because I lived in Hendersonville, I drove through Madison a lot, like going downtown and whatnot. And I used to cut through Old Hoover Boulevard. Like, I knew all the cut throughs in that area. And Madison's always not been that great, So I was like, man, like, and it's a pretty decent sized house. So basically, like, every few months they would lower it, like $10,000, whatever. But like if you start in like the high or like the low 400,000s, like, so like present day, when we bought it in 2019, it was like they were still asking like $3 something for it. And I was like, there was shag carpet in the bathroom. So I was like, no, like this is not.
No.
Yeah, so I came to my agent. I was like, this is not worth that. And she was like, well, what do you think it's worth? And I was like, I know what it's worth, but like I also know what they probably want for it, and that's where we landed.
Yeah.
So I felt like I was gifted with like 2 really good talents when it comes to the home market in Nashville, of being able to walk into a house and like, if it's the house for me, like I can see the renovation plan, like, right. It's like the Matrix. I can see everything. I can see the walls gone. It's like Property Brothers. Like that's what it feels like. It's just happening in my head. I was like, because I've renovated, I think like 5 houses.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah. So I was like, I was able to walk in and just be like, all right, like, yeah, that wall needs to be gone. You know, like that. We do some steps right there. You know,
All right, I need you
refinish the
to come
hardwoods
over
right
to
here.
my house.
Yeah. Well, it only works if it's a house for me that I'm like,
okay.
I'm going to live in.
Cool.
Because I've lived in all these houses at
Yeah.
some point. So,
You know your own personal feng
yeah,
shui. You
I know
don't other
exactly.
people's.
Yeah. And so, so with that house, it was like super, super easy to do. And then the other thing, I can't remember. It'll come back to me later.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You're good.
So,
Well, thanks
so-
for coming on, man.
Yeah, it's
thank
really
you for
cool.
having me. I hope we covered all the dad stuff.
We covered
you
a
know.
decent amount of dad stuff, so
Yeah.
don't worry.
We'd love to have you back on.
Yeah.
As with all of our other guests that we've had,
Yeah.
I mean, we just never seem to have enough time to really dive into
Dig
a lot of
into the-
things.
You know, like, wash your hands. You know, like that.
Trust me, just
life-
before you do anything, you should probably wash your hands.
Life is dirty out there in the dad world, and you know, like I remember one day we took him to the zoo, and it was like my wife will come to me, and it's like funny because you can picture this happening in every single household in Nashville. Like, it's really nice outside. We should go to the zoo.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we should go to the zoo. And then when we show up and everybody else
Everyone
is there,
had
I'm
the
like,
exact same conversation.
son of a, everybody, every single person,
Yep.
every single person's wife came
Yes.
to them and said, we should go to the zoo right now. And everybody said, that's great.
Sure.
Let's get them out of the house. Let's go
Yeah.
to the zoo. And so like sometimes you'll just be walking around like holding like crumbs or like a pouch or like a nasty, you know, like napkin filled with something until you find a trash can,
Yeah.
you know? And yeah, like that was my memory of the last time we went to the zoo. Like I was just holding like a bunch of
Just
crumbs.
grime.
Or at one point, we were trying to get into the petting zoo
Yeah.
area.
Yeah.
And you know, and so they had like they walked out and they had some of the chips.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, so I had some of those in my hand until I could find a trash can because I just didn't want to be. I was like, I know there. Like I've always had like a weird love-hate relationship with the zoo because I grew up here. I grew up going to Grassmere, and those animals were miserable then.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, and I've been to zoos where like animals are like thriving and it looks really really cool. But like for Nashville, and maybe it just has something to do with the climate. Like the animals have never been like really active, and you know, like they just kind of like to hang out in the cut, and you know,
Yep.
like they're like, I see you.
Yeah,
I see
yeah.
You, you know?
I'm here. You're here.
So yeah, but you know, you do what you can. You
can.
as a dad.
Yeah. So how we end our episodes is we ask just 5 basic questions, pretty much. And Justin, we'll ask the first one.
All right. So, did you have any backup names?
Backup
For your
names
kids.
for the kids. So
Yeah.
when we were before we knew what they were, well, we knew one was gonna be Leela, and that's my wife's grandmother's name. And she actually kind of favors her a little bit, so like it's really really interesting.
That's cool.
And then her name was Leela Faye, and my mom's middle name was Faye. So I was like, yeah, when we were dating, I was like, if we get married and have a kid, like she's got to be Leela Faye. So
Yeah.
and then we found out we were having twins. It was like crap. Oh, with another name, especially when we found out it was girls. I like the name Jackson for a boy because my favorite drummer is Al Jackson Jr. And so kind of like a nod. I knew I wanted a musical name, so that's how Etta came about,
Sure.
Etta James.
like
And my wife's middle name is Joe. Her mom's middle name is Joe. So like it just made sense. Etta Joe.
That's
Leela
cool.
Faye, Etta
Yeah.
Joe. So, but when I told my stepdad about Jackson, he was like, "That's weak." So I was like, cool. All right. Note to self: never share any of the baby
my
names
gosh.
with anybody ever again.
Yes.
I never
So,
thought of a name as
yeah.
weak.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Especially for a baby. Yes. No, he was like, "What's wrong with Jerry?" And I was like, "There's enough Jerrys out there in the world." I was like, "And I want them to have their own
Yeah,
life. They don't need
basically.
to have my life. They need
Not
to
so
have their
much.
own life." So no offense to juniors or anything like that. I didn't get into Jerry until I was like high school. I was like, hated that name.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah. So,
That's awesome. Next question. Do you have a favorite TV dad?
favorite TV dad. Well, Bill Cosby really blew it, didn't
Yeah.
Just a bit.
he? Man.
Bill Cosby, before anyone knew who he really was, great TV dad.
You know what? Like, I had so many Bill Cosby comedy records, and I was
Yeah.
like, I can't even, like, do I burn them? Like, what do
don't
I do?
know.
Like,
Dude,
because you can't
keep
take
'em.
them to Grimies. Shout out.
Yeah,
And be like, yeah, I want to sell some records and sandwich them in the middle. Like,
I
no.
think my parents still have their Bill Cosby.
I've been
records.
to what's the place very far out west? McKay's. McKay's has
Yeah.
a couple of random
Yeah.
Cosbys, and I'm like, this is probably someone who did that exact same
Before,
thing.
like, I used to buy them all. Like, I have Jackie Gleason comedy records. Like, I have so many Moms Mabley. I have so many comedy records.
Yeah.
I used to buy them anytime I saw them on the store or in stores because they're good to just play at, like,
Yeah.
you know, like at a hang or whatever. But, like, honestly, I mean, my first thought is probably Carl Winslow. I probably watched Family Matters more
Yeah.
than anything else.
That was always a good one.
Yeah. I think like in a family setting, there are several shows that I watched, but like that was probably the more like the thing that, just to touch on the Cosby thing, the thing that
yeah.
annoys me is like there are so many things that happen on the Cosby Show that I was like, ooh, like when you know, like when they clear all the stuff out of Theo's room and then
Yeah.
he has to like get a job and like buy it all back, you know, I was like, I can't wait to do stuff like that when I have my
Oh,
own family, you
yeah.
know what I mean? So it's like I know you could still do those things, but it really just takes like
It's tainted.
it's tainted a little bit.
Yeah.
It takes some of the enjoyment and the privilege out of doing that because you know like because of how you learned about it.
Yeah.
So,
I think there's a lot of musicians like that nowadays too.
Yeah.
Or like
And
just authors.
yeah, and as I said, I was raised, you know, like pretty much by a single mom. Like I remember coming home at 8 years old, like with my own house key, letting myself in, making
Yeah.
my own dinner sometimes. And so it was like, yeah, so like I was raised by TV,
Kind
you
of,
know,
yeah.
like
Yep.
for a period of time too. So, you know.
It's
So
what it is.
It's
It
a bummer.
sucks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
Yep.
sucks. But you know, I was like, I'll still do those things. I just won't tell them where I got
You
it.
won't tell them where you found out about it. Yeah.
All right. So you said
Instagram.
that your kids
Yeah.
don't do any screen time, correct? So they don't watch
Yeah.
any TV or movies or
No.
anything like that. So
You know what's really cool? Not to so like
Yeah.
we did a cartoon right before I left Old Crow, and that was the first time they'd ever watched the TV. Really was me
Okay.
and Ketch being in this cartoon. So
That's
so
cool.
they were like, huh, like, and then they saw me on the TV, and that was, but yeah, like we really like try really hard to not do.
Okay, so that's one of the questions. So I will pivot and say, what are your kids' favorite animals at the zoo?
They definitely like the goats because you know they can pet them and walk around with them. They like the flamingos
Yes.
a lot
Yeah.
because
That's
like the
Ada's.
flamingos, you know, like they're standing there, they're like super bright pink, like they're
Uh-huh.
really cool looking, and they're always like in a big flock
Yes, they
together.
are.
So there's so many of them. So like when they're going over that little bridge, they're like Mingos, Mingos,
Yep.
Mingos, you know, like wilding out. So yeah,
That's awesome.
Cool.
yeah.
Do you have a favorite kids toy? Like whenever they sit down to play with a toy, you actually enjoy playing it with them?
Magnetiles.
Yeah.
Like I would try to build the biggest like whatever, and like they just love to like tear it down.
Yes.
And early on, like I remember spending a lot of times like, all right, like this is so pretty much I figured out how to make anything, like any kind of structure. Like I figured out how to make them every single time, and I'm like, yeah, like if you know if you got all the pieces. But then I know they're going to either destroy it before I get there or they're going to destroy it immediately as soon as I put that last piece
Yeah.
in
Yep.
there. But yeah, Magnetiles, my wife bought those and like they definitely entertained me more than them.
I feel like I do a speed trial with them.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, cool. I got the like, architecture in my head.
Yeah.
I'm going to build it in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
All right.
Awesome. All right. Last question. What moment of your kid's life are you most excited to be a part of?
Like future, past, present?
Future, past,
past,
present,
yeah.
whatever.
You know what? I'm a I'm a day-to-day, every day matters kind of guy. I think every morning that I'm able to get up is a morning that I'm grateful for and grateful to be there, because, you know, like, nothing is guaranteed. And I think as someone who lost their mother very young and didn't grow up with their real dad, you know, like, those things matter. And if you're able to be there, then, you know, then it's awesome if you can be there. And, like, I know everybody has their own circumstances, but, like, for me, you know, like, I'm always just thankful for another day.
Yeah.
So, you know, like, I don't want to say, like, you know, when they get married, because they might not ever get married, or when they go to college, because they might not go to college, you know, like, you know, I always tell my wife, I'm like, you know, just watch the door, because at some point they're going to come in here and ask for the car keys, and it's going to happen a lot quicker than you think.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what that means? Like, she's a terrible driver. I'm like, one of us is going to have to teach them how to drive. Like, that's like, these are the things that are like coming that you never think about.
Yeah.
So, and it only happens one day at a time, you know? So
That's fair.
yeah.
This is your chance. Do you want to like plug your Instagram or anything like that? If people want to follow you or like get to know you better or anything, do you want to plug your Instagram or anything?
It's just Jerry Pentecost.
There you go.
So, I try to keep it entertaining with the DJ stuff, and I threw out some dad reels for Father's Day, because I wasn't home, so I was feeling homesick.
Yeah.
And it's mostly just nonsense. And then there's a little bit of drums and
every once in a
DJ.
while some drums.
Every so often there's drums,
Well, I'm really glad you got to come on. I know you've done a couple other podcasts.
Thank you so much for being flexible with
absolutely.
that. So that's why I couldn't make it, because I was prepping for this new gig, and I just had a bunch of stuff falling in my lap.
You chose Bob Dylan over us. I understand.
Yeah.
We totally understand.
I would have done the same thing. But I was really excited for you to come on, because I know that you've done other podcasts where you talk about drums and tour life and everything. Yeah. And it's just cool to make sure I have a chance to talk about being a dad, because I know you care and you love doing it. So,
man, it's by far the coolest thing I've ever done. It's the most important thing I'll ever do, and I'm just thankful.
Yeah,
so.
man. Yeah, really appreciate it. Thanks so much, Jerry.
Thanks,
Jerry.
Yeah.
Thanks again for listening. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at the Nashville Dads, and to subscribe to us on Apple and Spotify podcast. We record at New Light Podcast Studio, and episodes are produced by me, Devin.